Before we get into the 5 silent power moves, understand this. Looking expensive has nothing to do with money and everything to do with presence. People read you before they hear you, and the way you move, pause, choose, and respond tells the room exactly who you are. These small, quiet habits don't shout for attention, they command it. They make others lean in, not because you're trying, but because you've mastered the art of subtle influence. So let's get into the power moves that elevate you without you having to say a single word. The first silent power move is controlled pacing. When you move slowly and intentionally, you communicate that nothing is rushing you, nothing is overwhelming you, and nothing is pulling you out of your center. Fast movements look frantic, slow movements look confident. Every step, every reach, every turn of your head becomes deliberate, and people read that as self-possession. The second silent power move is holding your gaze instead of darting your eyes around the room. Not staring, not challenging, just staying present. When your eyes stay still, you look grounded, secure, expensive. It tells people you're not seeking approval or scanning for validation. You're simply here, and that calm presence is magnetic. The third silent power move is keeping your hands relaxed and still. Fidgeting, tapping, adjusting your hair, touching your face, those signal anxiety. Stillness signals control. When your hands rest, you look composed. When you gesture only with intention, you look elegant. Still hands create a still impression, and still impressions look high value. The fourth silent power move is mastering the pause before you speak. That tiny beat before you respond communicates power instantly. People who rush to fill silence look like they're afraid of losing space. People who pause look like they own it. That moment of quiet says you're choosing your words, not scrambling for them. It says your thoughts matter. It makes you look sharp, calm, expensive. And the fifth silent power move is refining your micro expressions. The soft smile that doesn't pull too hard, the neutral resting face that isn't hardened or overly bright, the calm brows, the composed posture. These tiny expressions create an aura. They tell the world you're unbothered, selective with your energy, and not thrown by little things. When your face stays calm, people assume your life is calm. Expensive is a feeling, and that feeling starts with the way you hold yourself, not with what you own. The power of quiet confidence becomes one of the strongest signals of value because it shows up in the way you carry yourself long before you ever speak. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't need to announce itself, doesn't need to perform, and doesn't need to seek approval from anyone in the room. Quiet confidence is subtle but unmistakable. It's in the way you walk into a space with calm, measured energy and how you allow yourself to take up space without shrinking or overcompensating. People instantly read this as someone who knows who they are. There is nothing loud, nothing forced, nothing exaggerated. Instead, there is a steady presence that makes others feel your strength without you having to push it forward. Quiet confidence makes you look expensive because it creates an aura of self-respect, and self-respect naturally elevates your entire presence. When someone has quiet confidence, they don't rush. They don't move with jittery urgency or scattered energy. They enter slowly, they settle into their environment, and they allow the room to adjust to them rather than adjusting themselves to the room. This kind of energy feels elevated, intentional, and high value. People notice the ease, the stillness, and the lack of desperation. Even your posture begins to reflect this steady internal state as you sit or stand with alignment and calmness instead of tension. That physical stillness translates into psychological strength, making others perceive you as someone who has their life handled. Quiet confidence also shows up in how you listen. Instead of reacting quickly or filling every silence, you give yourself time to absorb what's being said. You allow pauses. You hold your gaze with steadiness. You don't fidget or rush to prove your point. This patience signals control. It shows that you're not threatened by the conversation, not anxious about being judged, and not trying to impress. People feel that difference immediately because someone who isn't easily rattled always looks more powerful. Silence becomes your ally, and your ability to use it calmly makes you appear even more refined. Another part of quiet confidence is the way you set boundaries without broadcasting them. You don't need to over-explain yourself or justify your decisions. You simply act, choose, and step away when necessary. This simplicity reads as strength. People don't feel the need to challenge you because there is no emotional leakage or insecurity for them to poke at. Everything about your presence says you know what you're doing, and you don't need external validation to back it up. That non-reactive energy is what makes you look expensive because it mirrors the behavior of someone who is used to carrying themselves with dignity. Quiet confidence also shows through your face, particularly in the small expressions that remain calm and controlled. You're not overly animated, not trying to please with exaggerated smiles, and not shrinking with timid expressions. Your face rests naturally, your eyes stay relaxed, and your overall expression remains composed. This creates a look of poise that people associate with sophistication. Even your pace of speaking reflects this inner steadiness because you articulate clearly without rushing. The consistency between your energy, your expressions, your movements, and your tone creates a cohesive presence that feels polished and powerful. When your confidence doesn't need to be loud, everything about you begins to look elevated, regards your inner state, manifesting into the physical world in ways that people immediately interpret as high value. Quiet confidence becomes a form of silent communication that tells others you trust yourself, you respect yourself, and you belong in any room you enter. The subtle behaviors that signal self-respect and high standards often speak louder than anything you could ever say because people learn who you are by watching what you tolerate, how you treat yourself, and the way you move through everyday situations. These behaviors don't need attention. They don't need an audience. They quietly reveal that you live by a personal code, and that code is what elevates your presence. When someone has self-respect, it shows in the tiny decisions they make throughout the day. It's in the way they keep their appearance polished, not for others, but because they value how they show up. It's in the way they maintain their posture, not with stiffness, but with the natural alignment of someone who isn't trying to hide themselves. It's in how they groom, how they dress, and how they care for their surroundings. Because high standards always begin with the relationship you have with yourself. People instantly sense when you're someone who honors your own effort. Subtle behaviors reflect your internal boundaries without needing to be spoken. You don't chase validation, and you don't become overly available just to be liked. You respond when it's appropriate, you give your time thoughtfully, and you don't let anyone pull you into chaos. When you decline invitations that drain you, when you stop engaging in conversations that lower your energy, and when you choose silence over unnecessary defense, you communicate that your peace has value. This is the kind of behavior that makes others treat you with more respect because they can't help but follow the standard you set. Another powerful subtle behavior is the way you handle conflict or disagreement. Instead of raising your voice or becoming overly emotional, you express yourself calmly and clearly. You don't allow other people's moods to dictate your reactions. You maintain composure even when the situation invites you to lose it. This steady emotional control demonstrates a level of maturity that people instantly recognize. It shows that you respect yourself enough not to argue for the sake of being right and not to lower your character in moments of tension. Your calmness becomes a silent declaration of strength. Self-respect also shows in how you make decisions. You don't waffle endlessly or ask for constant reassurance. You gather information, trust your judgment, and choose based on what aligns with your values. This decisiveness signals confidence. It tells the world that you won't betray your own needs just to make others comfortable. People may not comment on it, but they notice it every time you say no gracefully, every time you choose the harder but healthier option, and every time you stand firm in something that matters to you. Your standards become evident not because you brag about them, but because you consistently embody them. Even the way you speak reflects this inner discipline. You avoid gossip because it cheapens your energy. You refrain from oversharing because you value your privacy. You choose your words with intention, not to impress, but to communicate clearly. You don't have to raise your tone or embellish your stories to hold attention. Your simplicity becomes its own form of elegance, and it shows that you don't need theatrics to be taken seriously. Self-respect reveals itself in your environment too. The way you care for your home, your workspace, your personal belongings, and your daily routines is a mirror of your inner order. You maintain cleanliness, you stay organized, and you treat your possessions well because you appreciate what you have. These small habits radiate a sense of discipline that others interpret as having high standards in life. The people around you might only catch glimpses of these behaviors, but each glimpse contributes to the image of someone who moves with intention. When everything you do aligns with your values, you naturally look more composed, more grounded, and more elevated. These subtle behaviors become your quiet signature, a silent indication that you hold yourself to a higher level and that you expect your world to rise to that level as well. The disciplined choices that make you appear polished and elevated begin long before you walk into a room, because looking expensive is never about a single action, but about the quiet consistency behind everything you choose. These choices are rarely dramatic and almost never noticed individually, yet together they create an entire presence that feels refined. Discipline becomes the foundation of elegance because it shapes the way you treat your time, your habits, your appearance, and your energy. When someone's life reflects discipline, there's a steadiness about them, a reliability in how they show up, and a clarity in how they move through the world. People sense it without needing an explanation, and they interpret that consistency as someone who carries high value. One disciplined choice that changes everything is how you maintain your routines. You don't wait until you feel motivated. You follow through because you promised yourself that you would. Whether it's the way you care for your skin, the way you maintain your wardrobe, or how you keep your environment orderly, discipline creates a polished look that doesn't need to be forced. It's the small decisions like hanging your clothes instead of tossing them, putting things back where they belong, and keeping your space clean that add up to an atmosphere of refinement. When your outer world is in order, people assume your inner world is as well, and that assumption alone makes you look more elevated. Another disciplined choice is the way you curate your appearance. This doesn't mean expensive items. It means intentionality. You choose outfits that fit you well, you stick to colors and shapes that flatter you, and you avoid looking overly busy or unprepared. You pay attention to the little things like polished shoes, clean nails, or well-kept hair, because these details communicate respect for yourself. Even if no one comments on them, people feel the difference when you show up with intention. Discipline in presentation signals that you take yourself seriously, and when you do, others follow your lead. Discipline also reveals itself in how you manage your reactions. You choose not to respond impulsively, not to let irritation take over, and not to give people access to your emotional triggers. You learn to pause, breathe, and think before speaking, which makes you look composed even in situations that could easily become chaotic. When you become selective with your reactions, your presence gains a sense of control that others immediately read as maturity. You stop being pulled into drama, you stop over-explaining, and you stop giving energy to things that don't deserve your attention. That emotional discipline elevates you more than any physical accessory ever could. Another powerful discipline choice is the company you keep. You don't surround yourself with people who drain you or disrupt your peace. You choose relationships that feel aligned, supportive, and respectful. You distance yourself from negativity without needing to make an announcement. This quiet discernment shows that your time and energy are precious. People notice when you're not easily accessible to chaos, and they begin to see you as someone who values quality in every area of life. Discipline also shows in how you use your voice. You choose words carefully, speak clearly, and avoid unnecessary conversations. You're not loud, not defensive, and not dramatic. Your calm and intentional tone becomes a reflection of your inner order. Speaking with discipline makes you sound more thoughtful and more self-aware, and that naturally elevates your presence. Even the way you walk, sit, and move can reflect discipline, because a disciplined body posture communicates self-control without saying a word. When you consistently make choices that honor your own standards, you build an aura that feels polished, stable, and refined. These disciplined habits become the invisible structure that supports your entire presence, shaping how others experience you long before you ever speak. The nonverbal cues that create an expensive presence work on a level most people never consciously notice, yet they shape how others interpret you within seconds. These cues aren't dramatic or exaggerated, and they don't require effort meant to impress anyone. They are the small, controlled signals your body sends without speaking, and they communicate who you are more honestly than any words ever could. When you embody calm, intentional, nonverbal cues, people immediately sense a certain quality about you, a quiet luxury in the way you exist, because your presence feels steady, centered, and self-assured. The first nonverbal cue is posture, not the stiff, exaggerated kind, but the natural alignment that comes from being grounded in yourself. When your shoulders are relaxed, your back is straight, and your chin is lifted softly, you signal that you are comfortable in your own skin. There is no shrinking, no hunching, no frantic shifting. This simple alignment gives the impression of someone who carries themselves with confidence and grace. People instinctively treat you with more respect when your posture communicates that you respect yourself. Another powerful cue is the way you manage your facial expressions. A calm, neutral expression with relaxed eyes and softened features gives off an aura of control. You're not overly animated, not forcing a smile, and not trying to use your face to earn approval. Instead, you hold a composed expression that suggests emotional balance. When someone's face isn't changing with every micro reaction, it creates a sense of mystery and elegance. People become more attentive to what you say because your expression isn't loud or chaotic. Your calmness becomes a silent form of presence. Eye contact is another subtle but deeply influential cue. You hold your gaze steadily, not aggressively and not timidly. You allow yourself to be present without darting your eyes around or seeking reassurance in the reactions of others. This steady gaze tells people you're grounded, thoughtful, and not easily shaken. It also shows that you're listening, which is a rare trait and instantly makes you appear more refined. People respect those who look at them with calm intention rather than nervous scanning. The way you move your hands also creates a strong impression. Keeping your hands relaxed and controlled signals composure. You're not fidgeting, tapping, or making unnecessary gestures. Instead, your movements are slow, clean, and deliberate. When you do gesture, it's with intention, not with messy energy. This stillness makes people see you as someone who is self-possessed, someone who doesn't need to over-explain or oversell. Controlled hands reflect a controlled mind, and that alone elevates your presence without you having to speak a word. Even the way you walk communicates something about you. Fast, choppy steps look anxious or overwhelmed, but a slower, steady pace looks confident and expensive. You aren't rushing, you aren't trying to get out of the space, you're moving with purpose. When you walk like you have time, people assume your time is valuable. They interpret your calm movement as a sign of inner stability. Your pace becomes a reflection of your standards. How you occupy space is another subtle but powerful cue. You don't fold into yourself or make yourself smaller, and you also don't overextend or dominate the room. You simply exist with ease. You use space with balance, standing or sitting in a way that feels relaxed yet intentional. This creates an aura of someone who is confident but not performative. People react to this balanced energy by giving you more room, both physically and emotionally. Even your silence communicates something important. Silence used with intention is a marker of emotional strength. You don't fill every moment with chatter, and you don't rush to respond. You allow pauses, which signals that you're comfortable in your own presence. This makes others feel your energy more deeply because silence highlights your self-control. When your nonverbal cues align with calm confidence, high self-regard, and emotional control, your entire presence transforms. These silent signals create the impression that you carry value, that you expect quality, and that you move through life with intention. They elevate you without ever needing to force anything because your body language speaks for you long before your words do. The silent habits that shift how others perceive your worth instantly often begin internally, long before anyone else can see them, yet their effects show up in every interaction and every space you enter. These habits are quiet, steady patterns that shape your presence, your energy, and the aura you create without even trying. When these habits become your default, people begin to recognize something elevated about you, something refined and effortlessly dignified. They can't always identify what it is, but they feel it because silent habits reveal a great deal about how you see yourself. One of these habits is the way you maintain emotional neutrality. You don't react impulsively, you don't show frustration in every expression, and you don't let external factors pull you out of your center. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. It means choosing to move through them with control. When you respond with measured calm instead of sudden outbursts, people see someone who has mastered themselves. Emotional stillness becomes a powerful signature because it shows that you're not ruled by the moment. You signal that your inner state is steady, and steady energy always feels expensive. Another silent habit is mental filtering. You don't absorb everything around you. You don't let gossip enter your mind. You don't internalize other people's negativity, and you don't allow random noise to influence your direction. This quiet selectivity in what you mentally accept gives you a sharper, more grounded presence. People notice when you're not easily distracted, when you listen with intention, and when you remain unfazed by the chaos others react to. This mental discipline makes you appear more elevated because your attention is controlled and not freely given to anything that doesn't align with your standards. A powerful silent habit is how you handle your personal space. You keep your environment clean, not for show, but because it affects your energy. You maintain order in your room, your car, your desk, and your closet. When your surroundings support your clarity, your presence becomes calmer and more organized. People sense this order even if they never see your space, because your behavior reflects it. You're not scattered, not forgetful, and not overwhelmed by basic tasks. This quiet internal structure gives your entire presence a polished feel. Another silent habit is selective communication. You don't overshare, you don't expose every detail of your life, and you don't use your words carelessly. You speak when necessary and remain silent when it protects your peace. This habit makes people lean in because they realize that your voice holds weight. You're not trying to entertain, not trying to impress, and not trying to fill the air with noise. This restraint creates an aura of thoughtfulness and maturity that people automatically associate with higher value. You become someone whose presence is felt even when you're not talking. Silent habits also show up in the way you manage your time. You invest it wisely, you protect it from anything draining, and you don't spread yourself thin. This boundary creates a sense of purpose in everything you do. You're not rushing from place to place. You're moving with intention. This calm pacing becomes a silent signal that you value your life and your time too much to live in chaos. People see this and assume you have a strong internal compass. Another important habit is consistency in self-care. You prioritize sleep, hydration, grooming, and small rituals that make you feel centered. You don't wait for special occasions to take care of yourself. You treat every day as worthy of effort. This consistency becomes visible in your skin, your posture, your energy, and your overall glow. People can't always pinpoint what changed, but they notice that you carry a kind of quiet radiance. Silent habits also extend into how you enter and exit interactions. You greet people with calm presence rather than exaggerated enthusiasm, and you excuse yourself with grace rather than urgency. You arrive on time, you follow through on commitments, and you carry yourself with steadiness. These subtle choices create trust, and trust elevates your perceived worth. When your silent habits reflect discipline, emotional control, mental clarity, and high self-regard, your entire identity shines in a way that needs no explanation. They create an aura that people read as strength, elegance, and self-worth, shaping their perception of you the moment you walk into any row.